Yo, welcome to the Dynasty Evaluation Show. I'm John McGlynn. I'm here with JT Orange. I spent a little bit too late last night watching football, drinking beers. I ended up going to bed at like 7 o'clock this morning. So this is a great show. Get warming up a little bit. Have my coffee 3 o'clock in the afternoon. JT, how's your night going?
Good. Yeah, I've watched the games. I actually went to sleep early for once, but that meant I woke up at 3 a.m. So got up at 3 a.m., finished an article for Fantrax this morning. So you can check that out on my X page, or you can go to fantraxhq.com. Check it out there. And I got a couple more articles coming out this the rest of the week. And big night tonight ahead. We've got Frozen Frenzy around the ice, where they play everybody plays in hockey. They got everybody going tonight, so a big hockey night. So looking forward to that. And then we've got our college football gambling show tonight. So I got a podcast all day long, maybe.
Woohoo! New mailman Chris. Well, let's get this show on the road. So, I am John McGlynn. You can find me at John McGlynn75, a Dynasty Evaluation Show on Fantasy and Frames, on my Dynasty Evaluation YouTube channel, the Stu with J2 Brew channel. Like, we're all over the place. So, and Dynasty Evaluation podcast form it's on there also. But we are here on StreamYard today. So, JT, when this week started, when this NFL this week 7 started, how many injuries have you had of your teams? How many guys are not performing? Like, what is going on with this fantasy season? Because it seems like it's like running back. The Empire Strikes Back with like running backs thing. Like, are backs like coming back? Is this like the new way the NFL is going now with no passing and all running back play?
As someone who played running back in high school, I was just couldn't believe how everybody's like, oh, running backs don't matter anymore. We just throw the ball. We don't need these guys. You can play UDFAs and 7th rounders all the time. Don't pay anybody any money. The league just goes in these waves. We all know it does that. Where it gets super pass heavy, and then we get back into the run. And it feels like after everyone said don't pay running backs, everybody started to pay all these wide receivers. Now the running backs are super important again. And the teams that have good lines and good running backs are the teams winning. The teams that don't have them are the teams struggling. I love to see the running backs matter, so it's awesome. But fantasy purpose wise, I tell you what, we've not gotten great performances out of quarterbacks, especially this year. Wide receivers have been super up and down. I mean, last couple of years, I feel like we had all the high end guys. You had like a down week here and there, but you weren't getting like duds. You weren't getting like where did that guy disappear to? It's just been wild this year. I mean, we're getting some good games, but man, there's a lot of bad games from some of the top end guys. And if you're in Superflex or Start 2 QB, at this point, you're just praying every week. You don't know what's going to happen with your quarterbacks. I've got Superflex leagues, and I kid you not, I never do this, but I've got Superflex leagues that I'm like debating every week whether I want to play a second quarterback or if I'm going to play a wideout or a running back, because some of them have been so bad. And we just have not seen, I remember it felt like 2 or 3 years ago, John, it was like you expected every QB to throw for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns a game.
Right.
And now it's like guys aren't even breaking 200 in a lot of games. And if you're getting 225 and a touch with no turnovers, that's like a pretty good game right now this year. I mean, the fact that we went as long as we did till we saw a 300-yard, 3-touchdown game, and it was Andy freaking Dalton for the Panthers in his first start of the year, was the first guy to do it. Man, it's crazy. It makes this that Kirk Cousins 500-yard passing game seem even more crazy after you've seen how little anyone else has got to the 300-yard mark this year.
What if I told you that I started Tony Pollard over Justin Herbert?
I wouldn't hate it. I had to start Herbert in a couple leagues because I just didn't have any other quarterback, but they haven't been throwing the ball a lot. I know I got Daniel Jones as my second QB, in a super flex league, and like every week I'm looking at him and I'm like, do I play him or do I play? Because I got a pretty good wide receiver group. So every week it's like, do I play him, JSN, Michael Pittman? I got a few other guys. It's like every week I'm like looking at those guys. I'm like, do I play one of those guys over him? Because it's like it's been so brutal.
Tony Pollard in the league I'm in, Tony Pollard's got me 24, 24, 7, 28, 23. And last week was kind of a dud because he had like some concussion thing going on. He only got 11. But I'm expecting mid 20s from Tony Pollard almost every week. And on the opposite side of the spectrum, I'm looking at like Justin Herbert. And of course, he got 20 some points last night, but he 13, 16, 9, 13, 14, and 22, of course. So the guy decided to not play him over there. He scored 20 more points. He scored more than Pollard. But for the most part, Justin Herbert has been smoked by, as far as, I mean, you're better off putting a running back in than a quarterback like that. Who 2 years ago would you ever thought of thinking of putting a running back in your super flex spot instead of a guy like Justin Herbert?
Oh no. I mean, you had been playing Herbert hands down as your QB1. And just watching that game last night, people who are down on Justin Herbert, it's not Justin Herbert. Man, the guy can throw the rock. He throws such a pretty ball. I mean, he throws a pretty deep ball. They just have no wide receivers. And then again, Harbaugh just doesn't want to pass. So they are trying to run the ball at every turn. They've got a good defense. So he's trying to play games close. In my article, I just actually talked about Pollard today. He has been like, here's the thing in fantasy this year, it's almost like who gets touches every week. And I just want to play that guy. He might blow up, he might not. No Tajee Spears, but he's still got 16 carries, 61 yards, 2 catches for 4. Pollard has 18 or more touches in 5 out of the 6 games this year. 18 or more. That's been pretty tough to do for a lot of players in the league this year. So if you're getting guys getting 18 to 20 touches every week between rushing and receiving, you got to play him. You got to play him, and you got to play him over a QB who's throwing the ball usually less than 25 times a game, and who's kind of in that 125 to 150 yard passing range. And if you're lucky, you get 1 TD out of him.
I just made a trade last week. I needed a running back. I made 2 trades. One of them we'll talk about on the sheet, but I traded Adonai Mitchell. I imported Tony Pollard to my team. I traded away Adonai Mitchell and a guy that's second in points right now in the league for 25 second. So a late 25 second and Adonai Mitchell for Tony Pollard. I mean, is that a bad move?
I don't think that's bad at all. Pollard's getting work. Tennessee's going to use him. Tajee Spears is banged up. And even when Tajee Spears was in there, you were still getting 18. I think the only game that he doesn't have 18 touches in this year is the game he got hurt in. Yeah. So, I mean, he's getting the ball. Tennessee isn't lighting things up. They've got to give him the ball. They don't have a lot else going on. I like that move. Mitchell's a guy that I have to be honest, I was not super pumped about coming into the draft. I kind of started feeling him a little more just because he went to the Colts. That's literally the only reason. I was like, oh, maybe he could be good with AR, but he was a guy I was down on going into the draft. He has all the physical tools, but he's just one of those guys I got bad vibes that he was going to be a guy we were like, why is he not good? He should be really good, but he's not. And I tell you what, I've kind of seen that so far here in this rookie year. I would make that trade for sure. Well, and John, going back real quick to starting Pollard over Herbert. I mean, I came up with this stat I found today, which, I mean, you don't want this out of your quarterback. So they lost 17-15 last night to the Cardinals. Cardinals kicked 5 field goals. Cameron Dicker the kicker, 15 of 16 field goals this year. Only 7 of 8 on extra points. That's how few. They've doubled up the amount of field goals compared to touchdowns. That is not what you want for your quarterback. That means they're not getting the ball in the end zone at all. They have not scored more than 2 touchdowns in a game this year.
I had this conversation before, actually last night at my neighbor's garage, my neighbor Joe. Joe, thanks for having me over again. Joe helped me pull my tree out of my house yesterday. So a lot of work. That's why I think I did some physical labor and I needed to drink some beers. That's why I'm up till 7 in the morning watching football. But anyway, I had this conversation where even when Justin Herbert was a quarterback before, all of his points came on, all of his fantasy relevance came from dumping off to Austin Eckler and dumping off to Keenan Allen. I mean, he doesn't throw the ball. He's capable of throwing the ball far. He sure is. But a lot of his stuff has been like, not air yards, like just dump off, screen passes, and short routes. So, I mean, this is his game. That's just what he does. But he was fantasy relevant doing it before. I'm not sure what happened now with, he's not even getting the yards anymore. But, this offense is just run, ground and pound, defense, run the ball, defense, run the ball, defense, run the ball. And that's okay. But that seems to be the Chiefs are doing that. All these teams that were fantasy relevant before are almost doing the same thing now. You see even like in Buffalo, the running game is like sometimes takes over games. But last year, towards the end of the season, there was 3 or 4 games where Josh Allen was getting like barely 10, 12 points a game because they let the running game take over. I don't know why this is happening this way, and I'm okay with it. But all my teams, the approach of going after when you're starting a dynasty league, going after quarterbacks, wide receivers, and tight ends, and then building with running backs at the end. That strategy is kind of over now. It's almost like you need a whole new approach to fantasy football.
Well, Herbert, like I said, he throws a pretty deep ball. They just don't have anybody that can go deep and catch it. And that's been kind of the problem his whole career. They just haven't had a lot of deep threat guys.
Right.
He's a guy I told people to pick up or trade for. I was like, you're not going to see the dividend, like the payout this year, but for future and dynasty, you're going to like it because I think this team's going to open it up more as they get better players on the outside. But you look at the first 4 games this year, highest pass total was 17 passes in a game, or 27 passes in a game, and he had 179 yards. The last 2 weeks for Herbert, though, a little bit of a bright side, 21 to 34 against Denver, 61%, 237 yards and a touchdown. Last night against Arizona, though you wouldn't see it on the scoreboards, they only had 15 points. He did put the ball up the most he has all year, 27 to 39. 69%, 349 yards, but no tutties, no scores whatsoever. But he got 349 through the air. So, again, if you can buy Herbert, somebody's out on him because they're seeing all this. I like him. I still like him for the future. I don't think he's going to be good for you most of the rest of this year in fantasy. But I think, John, what you were talking about with some of those teams, you think about it, those teams all have really good defenses and they can run the ball.
Yep.
And they're starting to realize, like, hey, we're not going to force it all the way down the field. We want to run the ball, run some clock because we're going to rely on our defenses to win. And that's where I think you're seeing here with the Chargers, the Steelers, the Bills, the Chiefs. All these teams are starting to lean on their defense. Now that they have good defense, they're like, hey, let's run the ball. Let's not get our quarterback killed. Let's just try to, we know we have enough talent to win games that they're just, instead of just throwing the ball all over the place and getting crazy with it, they're relying on the defense and the run game. I feel like I'm a kid growing up again when everybody's ground and pound and play defense.
I can't believe, do you think that if Justin Herbert would have had one more, his highest point total this season, I'm going by the Bavaro League scoring, so I'm not sure how that is nearly, but that's pretty crazy scoring. His highest scoring is 16.20 points before this week of 22.46. If you would have had another 13 or let's say 13 to 16 point week, do you think it would have been it would have been easy kind of pry away from a dynasty manager who's just kind of sick of having Justin Herbert not produce on their team?
Yeah, I think it would have been easier to trade for him before this week. Obviously, him throwing for almost 350, somebody's gonna be like, "Oh, okay." They're getting excited about him. There still might be some people out there as this team wants to run the football, but like I said, I love Herbert, and I tell you what, I've got him on quite a few dynasty teams. But I will be honest, all those teams I have him on are not very good this year.
Yeah.
I like him, but he's not giving me production. And if he's my QB1, I've just struggled.
He's part of the problem, man. He's part of the problem. All right, well, let's move on to the show sheet here. We got some injuries. We'll talk about them real fast. We'll run through them. We all saw Deshaun Watson kind of rolling out to the right, and then all of a sudden, poof, his ankle flared up. I think you saw the Achilles kind of rupture, and it's been confirmed. He's done for the season. So I'm not sure it's going to be Dorian Thompson-Robinson or my boy, Jameis. And we'll get to the show speed about Jameis later, but I'm just going to keep it at that right now that Jameis Winston has a shot to take over his team. Jaden Daniels got some rib injuries, 1 to 2 weeks. That when X-rays came back negative, so he should be okay. Aiden O'Connell, if you watch that game when he threw the ball, it looked like you got the quarterbacks throw the ball and they hit their fingers on somebody's helmet, or they go hand to hand with the defender trying to block the pass. I thought it was just like he jammed his fingers, but he broke his thumb. Actually, he's going to be out maybe a month and a half, something like that. So it's Minshew time for the future right now. Tyler Huntley, Tua is supposed to be coming back this week, so I don't really care about Tyler Huntley injuries. That's 2 to 4 weeks, but who cares? Tony Pollard, he had concussion screening. That he came back in the game, so I'm not really sure what the story is with that. But it's because I started him this week over a quarterback is why he only scored 8 fantasy football points. So it's my fault, peeps, in the fantasy football world. David Montgomery, he came out, he kind of limped to the locker room. If you saw that game, I was watching the game. I'm like, no, but he's such a good running back. But he returned to the game, came back, did okay. He should be fine. Brandon Ayuk, torn ACL, torn MCL, possibly more. When they don't really know till the swelling goes down and some of this stuff how bad it really is. But right now, ACL, MCL, and then he's done obviously for the season. And when you start getting the late part of this season, like it is now, it's already week 8. You're kind of putting yourself in a situation where, as a wide receiver or a running back, or generally speaking, not so much quarterback, but these important skill, you're putting yourself where you're not going to start 100% next year either. So this is not a good part of the season to start getting these injuries. Deebo Samuel had pneumonia. I started him. He came in for like a play, and then he went to the locker room coughing. And he went to the hospital actually with pneumonia. But that should be taken care of pretty next couple of days. Something's going around. All these guys are getting sick right now. It's been last couple of weeks. I'm not sure what it is, but Chris Godwin, my boy, I traded him away in like 5 leagues this year, and unfortunately, I hated to see him go, and I got laughed at in every one of my leagues. I trade him away because he gets hurt all the time. And I love the guy. He's probably the best receiver in the league when he's healthy. Everybody's laughing at me. Oh, you dumbass! What you did? Thanks for Chris Godwin, blah blah. And of course, he got hurt again. It was a bad one yesterday. It looked like a dog dragging his leg behind him. It was so bad. I felt so bad. It was like. And he's already 29 years old, so I'm not sure this is going to be. He's obviously done for this year. His contract's over. He was in the same situation he was a couple years ago with his contract and him getting injured. Hopefully he'll find a place. He's too good a receiver to be sitting on somebody's bench or not getting a job somewhere. So he'll come back. He's used to these injuries. Unfortunately, guys like that just they spend more time rehabbing than they do on the field, and he's just too good of a player to have this happen to him. Mike Evans, hamstring. Saw him going for the ball, and I'm like, it's a loser's limp. The ball was right in his hand. He's worried about celebrating instead of catching the ball, blah, blah, blah. And then I saw him grabbing his hamstring, and then I'm like, okay, it's a serious injury. And now, they're talking now it could be week 12, week 13, week 14 until he comes back because of his, reoccurring hamstring injury. So could be a pretty big deal. DK Metcalf, right knee, MCL sprain, 1 to 3 weeks. He is a guy. He's a big dude. He usually plays through some. He's a pretty tough dude. He picks up these injuries a lot, but he plays through them. He plays through them a lot. So, but knees and his hammies and lower body injuries are kind of a little bit different to play with. So, especially for the bigger dudes. Calvin Ridley, an ankle injury. I was like, oh shit, I got Ridley in like 2 or 3 rounds, which I didn't even want to play him, and then I figured he got hurt. I saw he got hurt. I'm like, but he came back in the game, so he's all right. Juju. Nick Scripp. I tried offering like 4 trades to get Juju before yesterday's game, and I traded him Gabe Davis. I sent for Gabe Davis. I sent for a 4th round pick. I sent Gabe Davis and a 4th round pick. And he's like, I don't want none of your roster clogger bullshit. I'm like, what the fuck do you think Juju Smith-Schuster is? He had 1 good game all season long, dude. Get out of here. So we went back and forth, and nothing got done. And then Juju played a couple snaps and was out with a hamstring injury. I'm like, go fuck yourself, Nick.
Oh, dude, I felt bad because my girlfriend's son was looking at us. We were watching football, and he was like, "Oh, Cooper Kupp's not playing." I'm like, "No, they just said he's going to be out another week," and he didn't have anybody else to put in his roster. And he's like, "Oh, who can I pick up? Who can I pick up?" And I was like, "Pull up your waiver wire real quick. Let me see." And Juju was sitting there, and I was like, "Oh, grab Juju. He's going to be in the mix. He was good, 2 weeks ago before the bye." And then, of course, he immediately gets a hamstring, goes out with the injury, and I'm like, he'll probably never ask me for fantasy advice ever again after that. I blew it by 1 chance, John, to impress him, and I told him to pick the wrong guy.
My son's in a 1 quarterback league, and I told him that he had 3 quarterbacks. I'm like, dude, trade Brock Purdy away and pick up Mark Andrews because he had no tight end. and Mark Andrews didn't do shit all fucking the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season, you're like, Dad, I'm never asking you for fantasy advice ever again. You're the stupidest guy in the world. I'm like, okay, I'm the stupidest guy in the world. And then we'll talk about Mark Andrews later too. But I think that's gonna be in the long term, it's gonna be the right decision. But
yeah, John, I tell you what, I was in a new league that started an RSO league with auction, and it's a 1 QB league, and so I ended up spending a pretty good amount of money on Anthony Richardson and Tua. And then I don't even know how it happened. I accidentally bid on Aaron Rodgers, and I didn't mean to. I think I was like going to do something else. Probably middle of the night. You know me, I'm always doing shit in the middle of the night.
right.
I was doing something. Next thing I know, I got him, and I'm like, wait, why did I bid that on Aaron Rodgers? I don't need a third quarterback in a 1 QB league. Well, I guess I did because Tua got hurt, and then Anthony Richardson got hurt, and I'm sitting there like, okay, I guess it's a good little mistake that I got Aaron Rodgers because I actually ended up needing him. So, you always say you don't need that third QB in a 1 QB league, but I have to tell you, there's been way too many times I've got both guys hurt and I've needed a third QB. So, you hate to have that many guys on the roster, but sometimes it ends up working out for you.
I traded an early third for Aaron Rodgers and I only had Sam Darnold and Dak Prescott on my team that were actually playing this year. And I'm like, I got to bite the bullet here. I have to do it. Dynasty Superflex him. If he plays for 2 years, I think that, early third is probably worth it, especially because I also.
Hey, John, I've traded a third for worse at QB. Luckily, I got one league. I traded a third for Baker Mayfield when he was on the Rams. So, I ended up looking out there that he went to the Bucks because at the time I traded for him, he was starting and there was like nobody else. And I was like desperate because I had like, oh man, this is like when Roethlisberger, was ended his career. I just kept trading third round picks for like all these backup QBs, hoping I get one guy that would stay and play at least for the rest of the year because I was going for a championship. And luckily that one turned into a good thing for me because he obviously has been fantastic this year. But man, Baker, it's going to be ugly. Hopefully he can keep things going. But man, no Evans and definitely no more Godwin for the rest of the year. It sucks because man, that Bucs offense was humming the last couple of weeks. They've looked good this year.
We'll talk about them in a minute. But I did trade away 2 late seconds and one late first for Jalen Reagor a couple years ago. So I've made a lot of bad trades in my lifetime. So ain't no thing. Next one, Curtis Samuel, Buffalo Bills, right shoulder a couple weeks. It's probably irrelevant now in the offense anyway. Zay Flowers, high ankle sprain. I saw that injury yesterday, and I'm like, dude, come on. He's been doing so well. I traded him straight out back and forth with somebody for Jaden Reed a couple weeks right before the season started. So they're pretty much, I think they're pretty like par for the course in the same tier anyway. So I thought Zay Flowers was going to get a lot more volume than Jaden Reed did, and he is most of the time. But they both have kind of boom bust games. So Zay Flowers, yeah, I'm okay. I think he'll be fine. He'll be all right. He came back in for a couple plays. They brought him back to the sidelines, and I was like, "Oh, come on, get back out there!" But
I know he fits that offense with Lamar really well. I like him a ton on that team. We saw the ghost of Rashad Bateman coming out of nowhere. Depending on what your league scoring is, Fantasy Pro scoring, he was the number 1 wide receiver this last week, which is wild. But he lucked out in that couple of those balls that probably would have went to Flowers. Ended up going to him, but. Yeah, I like Zay, man. I hope it's not one of these lingering high ankle sprains or something that has him out 4 or 5 weeks.
I hope not. All right, let's jump to waiver wires. Okay, let's. You want to run through the waiver wire guys real fast this week?
Yeah, a lot of these waiver wire guys have to do. There's not a ton of guys out there, but what have to do with the injuries we just saw. So. If you're a quarterback and you're desperate, especially if you have Jaden Daniels in a super flex league, you better go out there and get Marcus Mariota. If you can pick him up, get him. Mariota was shockingly good. I said, party like it's 1993. Number 2 former overall pick, Marcus Mariota, had a really nice game for the Commanders. He's a decent
He won me a big parlay on a New Year's Day games. He won me a huge parlay back in the day. So I love Marcus Mariota just because he made me so much money on New Year's Day one year when I was half in the bag and Oregon was playing, I think Ohio State or something.
That's Oregon and the that was the Rose Bowl. Oregon and the Rose Bowl.
It was a great game, and I won tons of money. And I was almost going to go out and get a Mariota jersey, but he's Mariota since that day. He's been my guy, but he hasn't done shit. But of course, I cut him Sunday morning, and look what happened. He goes nuts, and everybody laughs at me again in my league. I had to make room for a guy. That's how it works.
I cut him in a league where I only have one QB, and because I have two as my second QB, and I had all these guys coming off the IR, and I needed a spot, and I cut him, and I'm like, of course I cut him right when he would have played for me, and I would have actually started him. So of course I've been holding him. It never fails. I hold these guys forever, and then I cut them right when I need them. So the other one, like we talked about with the Deshaun Watson injury, Jameis Winston. John, you're not going to like this. I heard some whispers on a couple podcasts. There's some guys that know some players for the Browns, and they said that Stefanski just doesn't like Winston at all. Like just doesn't like him. So this has got me scared a little because I figured like this is Jameis time. Let Jameis get in there, roll. If anybody could get this offense doing something, it could be him. It could be scary. It might be Dorian Thompson-Robinson. I
tell you what,
I think you got to go Jameis here, but but hey, you know, when has Cleveland not been a shit show and done something stupid? Like they would probably go with them just because. To me, it doesn't make any sense. Why would you trade for Winston and why would you do all this and get him? Why would you even have tried to get him if you weren't ever going to plan on playing him? These are the things that just if he ends up not playing at all for the Browns, these are the times I look at NFL. GMs and coaches. I'm like, why did you even sign the guy if you had no intention of playing him? If you knew that, like, oh, somebody gets hurt, we're never going to play him, we'll go sign somebody else. Why is he even on the roster? It makes no sense to me.
Yeah, I think he was the emergency quarterback yesterday because they were going to trade him away, and now they, I think he was on the trade, like they're just about traded away, and now they have to keep him, kind of thing. But I sent a bunch of trades out for Jameis Winston as soon as I heard he was on the emergency quarterback list. There's no way they would move Jameis Winston to quarterback 3 and non-participant in the game unless they had some plans or somebody was knocking on the door saying, hey, we want to kick tires on Jameis Winston. What's it going to cost? So they moved him down the emergency quarterback list, and then all this stuff happened. Now he's back up in the on the roster. So they probably tore the trade agreement up, and maybe not. Who knows? Maybe they're too talented not to. They got Chubb back. The receiving core is decent. There's no reason they shouldn't use a quarterback like Winston to spark this offense. But like you said, who knows what goes on through these GMs' heads?
Yeah, the other quarterback, the last guy, kind of keep your eye out on is Mason Rudolph, old Steelers player. Mason, Will Levis, the shoulder injury. Mason Rudolph came in and played for him. I actually said, this was a tough matchup for him to come in against the Bills, as he had to play the Bills in the playoffs last year for the Steelers and actually had a pretty good game other than a pick near the goal line. Absolutely crushed the Steelers in that game. Came in, he went 25 of 40, 62%, 215 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. They just got down early. Their defense couldn't stop the Bills. So it'll be interesting to see what Rudolph does going forward. This team has actually not looked terrible with him at QB the couple times he's played this year. They haven't looked great, but this team just isn't great on offense, so that's part of the issue there. But Rudolph, super flex leagues, if this is going to continue to be a problem with injuries for Levis, you at least can get a guy in there and play, and they're going to get a couple easier games coming up as they've had a hard stretch here so far. So those are the 3 QBs that I'm looking to possibly pick up. Not a bunch of other guys. Running back, there's not a lot out there right now. Tyler Goodson, he looks like he's a little more explosive than Trey Sermon. So if you're a JT owner or you're looking for somebody to kind of fill in, Tyler Goodson might be a decent pickup if he's still out there on waivers, as there's a decent chance he actually passes up Sermon when JT comes back as the backup, because he's looked pretty good and been kind of the third down back. This is a total stash for Kendre Miller for the Saints. Finally back off the IR, finally getting a little bit of playing time. I think he was at 29-30% of snaps last week. So he's in there a little bit. This team is an absolute disaster. All kinds of injuries right now for the Saints. So he's more of a stash play than a guy you're going to like pick up and think you're going to get kind of any points out of him. We got I'm just going to bring him up here. Daniel Cap says Mike Evans out until week 11. That hurts me in quite a few leagues that I'm contending in. I had a bad feeling when I saw that he aggravated that. I feel like I've got everybody on my team has a hamstring injury this year. So without him, my suggestions were going to be Jalen McMillan, the rookie, or Trey Palmer, the second-year guy. I'm not sure who ends up really taking what role. If I had to guess, Palmer is going to end up taking more of the deep role. He might end up being more of the Mike Evans role, and McMillan taking kind of the underneath slot role. That's kind of what my guess is right now. If either of those guys are sitting out there, probably Dynasty, McMillan probably got drafted, so he's probably not available. But in redraft, I'm sure he's out there most likely. Palmer's the guy that I put in for a waiver in a few leagues, especially in Dynasty leagues. He was out there. So those are guys I'm picking up because, hey, the Bucs are going to still have to sling the ball. They're going to have to move it. They're going to have to throw the ball around. They got to throw it to somebody. They're not all of a sudden just going to stop passing the football. So those are the top guys for me. Sterling Shepard is also a possibility, an older guy, but he's got some experience. I'd rather have one of those younger guys, especially in Dynasty. But Sterling Shepard might be a decent fill-in for you there. And then on the other side, we just talked about the Niners. Ayuk done for the year. Debo with a sickness, he'll probably be back. There's some guys you might want to get. Ricky Pearsall, obviously, redraft. He's going to be a guy. He saw a lot of snaps in this last game. I think he was up over 70% snap share in his first game coming back. Obviously, most people know about story about him. He got robbed before the season started, got shot in the chest. Luckily survived. Luckily, it wasn't a ton of damage. He got back his first game as a rookie. Solid outing, couple catches, 3 catches, I think 20 yards. But he did play a ton of snap share, so I would expect that to be up, especially without Ayuk. And then the other guys you want to look at, Jennings has been banged up, so if Jennings is still out there and comes back, you want to get him as he'll be involved. And then the deep stash, I know you love him, John. I love him. Jacob Cowing finally saw just about 20% snap shares most of the season so far as the rookie. He had 2 catches for 50 yards, caught a deep one. So he's a guy that I think is sneaky good as well. If Jennings stays banged up and everything else, I could see, there's it could be Debo, Pearsall, and Cowing as the 3 guys out there for the Niners. So obviously Pearsall in a redraft, you can pick him up for sure. Probably no one has him as he hasn't played it all this year, but Cowing, if he's out there in Dynasty, go grab Jacob Cowing. I like Jacob Cowing a ton. That's going to be it for me on wide receivers. And then tight ends, couple guys. Zach Ertz for Washington, if he's still out there for you, he's getting at least 3 or 4 targets every week. So he's not scoring a lot of points, but he's getting you something. And then Jatavian Sanders for Carolina has really taken over as the starting tight end there. It hasn't been super productive, but he's getting the snap share, and they have dealt with injuries as well as Deontay Johnson really struggled injuries last week, only had 1 catch. So Sanders is a guy, definitely if you're looking for some tight end help, you can go out and grab.
You know what? Some people in redraft leagues have already dropped Tua Tagovailoa because they don't have enough room in their lives. No IR spots, no nothing. If Tua is available this week and he's supposed to come back, some people might be sleeping on him. Just make sure that, if you could find a spot from in your roster, that's one of those good kind of sneaky under the radar grabs. So
yeah, John, that's a good point. If you're in a redraft league where not very big benches, a lot of people have dropped guys that went on IR because they either don't have IR spots, or a lot of my redraft leagues only have 2 IR spots or 1. So sometimes you get guys getting hurt, you got to drop a guy. So go take a look at some of these guys that might be coming off IR and pick them up if you can.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. So we are done with those. We are done with injuries, waiver wires. Let's get to the meat of the show here, JT. Quick hits, which we try to do quick hits, but they're not always quick.
I'll do my best, John, to not go for 5-minute rants on each one of mine.
That's all right. I got nothing. I have nothing to do today anyway. Take my daughter off lunch when I'm done with this. So she's cleaning the house right now, so I have nothing but time. It's great. Okay, Bears. Rome Odunze had 1 huge week against your Colts. How did they get him going again?
He's a rookie. There's going to be some ups and downs here with them. At least the offense is going in the right direction, and 3 straight wins for the Bears. So I think they're turning around here. There's just going to be weeks where they got to figure out how to kind of work him in the system and get going. Don't bail on Odunze yet. Don't bail on Rome just yet. I still like him. I think he's going to end up being eventually Caleb Williams' guy. Obviously, you still have Keenan Allen and DJ Moore there for now, but Rome might not be a huge hitter or start every week guy here the rest of the rookie year. But Dynasty, don't be giving up on him just yet.
And I'm Cincinnati Bengals. All right. So there's a lot of big names out there. People paying a lot of draft picks for Saquon and Ken Walker and all these big names, Jahmyr Gibbs, blah, blah. What about Chase Brown?
Chase Brown is definitely finally, John, we talked about it before the season. He's finally taken on this role. He's taking over this backfield from Zach Moss. Zach Moss has not been good, especially of late. So 2 straight weeks now, Chase Brown has led him in snap share 62-45 in week 6 and 58-49 in week 7. 15 carries, 44 yards, 2 catches for 9 for Chase. Last week, Moss, 6 carries, 7 yards. He did have 1 long catch that helped him get 3 catches for 33 yards. This one's Chase Brown. Go out and get Chase Brown. If somebody doesn't like, or if you can trade for him, I think Chase Brown ends up winning this thing. By the end of the year, he's going to be getting 65-70% of the snap share. Zach Moss is just a change of pace, fill in here and there back. I've said that always about him, and it's the Bengals, I think, have realized that they want any kind of explosive plays. Chase Brown is their guy.
Bills, are you buying Amari Cooper or are you Keon Coleman in Dynasty?
I think Amari is the wide receiver 1 here for the Bills. If you can grab him, especially in a redraft league, if you can go out and get somebody to trade him for you or make a move, I think Amari ends up being the guy. Didn't play a huge snap share this last week, but still was their leading receiver. So to me, that screams that this is going to be a really nice pickup for them. And for Amari Cooper, only 35% snap share, but still had 4 catches on 5 targets with 66 yards and a touchdown in a blowout win. I'm liking Coop going forward here. I think him and Josh Allen are going to have a really, really nice connection.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to do everything I can this week to pick him up in every league I have Josh Allen in. And even the ones I don't, I'm going to just try and get Cooper because he could just be a target man. It does open the offense up for Keon Coleman to be Keon Coleman because he's not a wide receiver 1. He's a good wide receiver 2, probably maybe even a better wide receiver 3, just to stretch the field, get open. But I mean, this is going to improve his game also. This is exactly what the Buffalo Bills needed: a good dude that's a great player that just fits in this offense. This is like Stephon Diggs without an attitude problem kind of thing, So I'm all for this, man.
Yeah, John, I agree with you. I think Coop is exactly what this team needed. And I think he actually helps Keon Coleman. I think Keon Coleman's going to be better because he doesn't have the attention that's going to Cooper.
Oh, show. Broncos, is Javonte Williams a stud again, or did he just go nuts because he played the Saints' terrible run defense?
I don't think he's a stud again. But I do say about Javonte is I think this might have won him the job. They've been kind of bouncing around back and forth, playing a lot of guys at running back. 14 carries, 88 yards, 2 touches. Denver, they've been up and down this year, but they've been, I have to be honest, better than I thought they were going to be this year. I think this finally wins Javonte the RB1 role for the foreseeable future for Denver.
Yeah. Buccaneers, should I trade away Jalen McMillan to get Jameis Winston in the Dynasty Superflex after Godwin and Evans injuries? Or is just Cade Otton just the guy to go after on his team?
Man, I love Cade Otton. I liked him before the year. I thought Baker was really starting to hit him up near the end of last season. And then when all the injuries happened last night, even though Godwin didn't go out till late in the game, Cade Otton, 8 catches for 100 yards. He did take a ton of huge hits. For anyone who didn't watch the game, I felt like every time Otton got the ball, he was getting crushed by somebody. But he didn't go out with injuries, stayed in there, 8 catches, 100 yards. Really nice performance for him. Here's the thing, John. If Jameis comes out and slings, I would make that trade. The issue is I want to know that he's definitely starting for the Browns before I trade Jalen McMillan away for him. I would hate to make that trade, and then all of a sudden they were like, Jameis is the backup to Dorn Robinson. I'm like, what? That would absolutely kill me. That'd be a tough one. I tell you what, anybody who was a Jalen McMillan truther before the season, before the draft, and thought he should have went way higher in the draft than he did. I got him like mid to late second, mid to late third, early fourth, and quite a few rookie drafts. This is going to be his chance to shine. You know, no Evans, no Godwin for a couple weeks. He's going to get a chance to be the guy. And he was really productive at Washington with Michael Penix at QB. Like I said, Baker's not going to stop throwing the football. So you just got to do something and get open. So this is a great chance for McMillan to really show what he can do.
Yeah, absolutely. Cardinals. Where the hell is Trey Benson?
Man, I like Trey Benson a lot. I had a feeling that he was going to get slow worked in here. James Conner is just playing great.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just that simple. James Conner is just playing really good, and you could tell this team trusts him. Right now, outside of Kyler Murray, I know they got Marvin Harrison Jr., who I love. Dude, James Conner's the heart and soul of that offense right now. I think that's just the way it is.
He fumbled. They didn't even think twice about putting it back in. But nothing like that. Just, hey, whatever. It happened to go back in. Like, they trust him.
I mean, he won him that game last night. I mean, really nice play. Big play down the sideline. He ended up with, he ended up having 100 yards rushing. Well, let me look at it real quick. 19 carries, 101 yards. He had 2 catches for 51 yards, big 33-yarder in that game. I like James Conner a lot. He's just a good dude. I thought they were going to run him. I was taking Trey Benson as he's a long-term
sure.
It's not a long-term guy for the Cardinals. I don't think he gets any kind of run this year of significance unless Conner gets hurt.
I thought by this point in the season they'd be phasing him in a little bit. He got nothing last night. Nothing. Like 0.
Yeah, he has not been getting many touches. The only games he's really been getting touches is when they've got blown out. Honestly, the couple games he's got blown out, he's got some touches. That's it. Vegas Jeff coming in says J-Mo out. Go get Khalif Raymond. That's one we didn't have in there. That's not a bad little call there. Jameson Williams is going to be suspended for 2 games. It looks like for a substance abuse violation. Khalif Raymond looked pretty good the other day. Here's another one that's a little sneaky. Why am I blanking on his name? All of a sudden, I was getting ready to say him. He stuck him down.
Tim Patrick.
Tim Patrick, thank you. Yeah. Old Tim Patrick. Tim Patrick's kind of been working his way into the lineup a little bit for the Lions. You know, can you count on either of those guys? No, but if you're in a deeper league where you start like 11 or 12 guys, I've got a couple leagues where those guys are going to have to end up starting at least 1 or 2 weeks for me on bye weeks and with injuries. So Khalif Raymond's not bad, especially if you have a league that gives you punt kick return yards. Khalif Raymond does add up some special teams yards as well. So Vegas Jeff, good call on that one.
Vegas Jeff, also, there are people who are panicking over Sam Laporta right now. This would be the perfect week to go out because, if you can get him right now before the next week, Sam Laporta, this would be the week to try to shoot your shot and try to get him. That would absolutely be the week to do it.
Oh, John, we got a trade question here. I'll pop this one up here from Michael Chapp. Thanks for sending us the question. He's a hockey guy. He's got his New York Rangers there in the emblem there. I love it. Love hockey guys. All right, help me out, guys. Chris Olave for Devin Achane, a fair trade. Achane owner had Godwin, who just went down with the injury, and he has Achane on his bench. Ooh, I think that one's pretty even, to tell you the truth. If you need running back help, the problem is the Dolphins are just terrible right now. You got to hope that Tua comes back and this offense gets back on track because everybody has been horrible to play in this league. Tyreek Hill, Waddle combined 2 catches for 16 yards last week. I mean, oh my God. It's like, I know the quarterback play is bad, but like you can't get either one of those guys more than 1 touch in a game. It just blows my mind. John, what do you think on this one? I like both these guys. I think they're pretty even value-wise. Achane, if you need the home run hitter and you need a running back, I think Olave long-term for me, but man, things have been ugly with the Saints. I'm not sure what's going on there either.
These guys are in the same tier as far as Dynasty is concerned for me, so it's kind of like a lateral move. You can get like a 4th-round pick or something for either 1 back or 4th. 2 is back this week, I think, Michael said, but That's not 100% for sure given yet. He's eligible to come back. It doesn't mean he's going to start. I have a feeling that the NFL might step in here. That's my conspiracy theory kind of. They might step in and be like, "Hey, dude, you're taking this year off. We don't need any more."
You got to let a guy play. You got to let a guy play if you want to play. And I just, man, my whole thing, I know I've gone through this and I'm not going to get crazy about this again, but hey, if a guy wants to play, you got to let him play. It's his right to play. And it kills me how the only person we ever freak out about concussions is Tua. Everybody else gets them every week and they come back and play in a week and nobody says anything. But then Tua, everyone's like, you got to retire. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Well,
let the guy do what he wants to do. Let the guy do what he wants to do, man. That's it. So that's up to you, Michael, on that one. If you need some running back help, I have no problem making that move. I think the Dolphins offense is going to get back rolling here. I have a ton of Tua, so I can't wait to see him get back. I need him back bad in a lot of leagues.
I'm gonna say this: just if this is a redraft, I think it's kind of it's an even trade back and forth in Dynasty. I'm taking Olave though.
Sure. Yeah, I lean Olave only because I lean wide out in Dynasty, just because I think they usually have a longer shelf life. But again, if you need running back and you would play a chain pretty much every week, I would make that trade. So thanks, Mike. Michael, appreciate you throwing that one out to us.
Thank you, sir. Different Hamilton, thank you very much. Where are we at here? Cardinals, Chargers. What happened to Justin Herbert? We talked about this a little bit before the pregame. What happened to Justin Herbert? So just kind of we jump the gun sometimes on these questions because we're chopping at the bit here to get this show going. But what happened to Justin Herbert? The fantasy gem. They run the ball. They play defense. That's what happened to Justin Herbert. He'll come around. He's a great dynasty asset. Just right now, they're trying to figure out the offense with a new coach. He'll be fine. So I answered that one. JT, Chiefs. I traded Mahomes away last offseason for T-Law, 3 firsts and a third. And I sent away McKinnon, Juju, Mahomes, Sutton, and Michael Carter. How does that trade look today?
It's always tough to trade away Mahomes, but man, everybody is ripping all these other QBs about how bad they are and how they suck and we need another quarterback and blah, blah, blah. Mahomes has looked Mahomely lately. I mean, he is a homeless version of Mahomes because they're 6-0, and that's the only thing keeping people off his back. Because he just came off a 16 for 27 performance, 154 yards, 2 picks in week 7 against the Niners, but they got the win. Mahomes hasn't finished higher than QB 14 at Fantasy Pro scoring this year. Currently, 6 touchdowns and 8 interceptions this season. If his name wasn't Mahomes and they weren't undefeated, I think you'd be hearing a lot more rumblings. I think that's actually a decent trade. Mahomes is not slinging it around like he used to. He's making plays when they need him to, but he's not just out there going crazy at all.
Yep.
Oh, we got Clifford. Yep, I'll say Clifford. Thank you for throwing one in here. We got Cedric Tillman, McMillan, or Tyrone Tracy. Who wins in this one?
I tell you what, I just traded for Cedric Tillman in a couple leagues because I figured he'd be the guy getting a lot of targets. A lot of work now. I love Cedric Tillman, but I like him because I traded up for him in a bunch of leagues when he was a rookie. I traded him mid-second to get him, early second to get him. Not too early second. Let's just say mid-second to get Cedric Tillman. Him and Jalen Tolbert were my guys. They're both Tolbert started to produce a little more than Tillman, but I like Tillman, but I think you have to go with McMillan on this trade. I think he's going to get out of this scenario. McMillan's going to be. I mean, he just got thrown in the fire. Whether he likes it or not, I think he's going to get peppered with targets and offense. Like you said before, they're not going to stop throwing the ball. McMillan has the opportunity not to be Chris Godwin because there's not many people who are Chris Godwin, but to have Chris Godwin opportunities. That's the way I look at it. So McMillan for sure for me. I'm not sure how you, JT. How about you?
Yep, I 100%, which is what you said. I think McMillan ends up being the guy that benefits the most from these injuries. I think he's going to be that guy that go underneath. He says, I got McMillan and Tillman for Tyrone Tracy. I love it, Clifford. That's the move, baby. I love it. Yep, McMillan and Tillman for Tyrone Tracy. I love that move. I think McMillan is the guy that is going to bust out with all these injuries. I think he fills in Godwin's role. I think he's a talented guy. He just hasn't had the opportunity because of the stud veterans in front of him. But he's a guy that can play, man. He had a couple real big years at Washington. I think that's the move, Clifford. Good job.
Vegas fill up both his flex spots by just trading away Tyrone Tracy.
There we go. And the Vegas Jets said Mahomes is killing me in a few leagues, dude. He's killing me in a few leagues. There's a couple leagues I was expecting him to kind of really help me roll in some leagues I'm trying to compete in. And I've got some leagues that I'm literally week to week. And I never thought I would say this, John. I'm looking at Mahomes and going, am I going to play him this week? I have like Baker. I have Sam Darnold. Like, are you not starting Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield over Mahomes right now?
Sure are. Sammy Dimes, dude.
I know, right? I was like, every week I look at it, I was like, man, I can't sit Mahomes. I got to give him another week. Got him another week. And every time I play him and I don't play one of those other guys and I end up losing the week because I end up scoring 10 points less with Mahomes, is killing me.
I wish I had one of those horse masks, like jackass masks you put on your head. Because how many leagues have you done in? How many leagues in the last 5 years, dynasty startups you did? You could have sat on quarterback and got Sam Darnold in around 28. In a startup 2 years ago or last year even, and just kind of you could have got Sam Darnold. You could have got these, Jameis Winston. He might be the starter now. You could have done. Think of the play. You could at 101. You could have got some really good value. You took Mahomes at 2 or something. We're out there quarterback. If you took Mahomes later. Think of the roster now if you would know what you know now from the last handful of startups.
Yeah, no joke. I'm so mad about my Sam Darnold MVP bet last year, and I didn't put it in this year. Oh, gonna be kicking myself on that.
We could have been somebody, JT.
We could. Oh man, we were there, John. Hey, we're always a year too early, man. We're a year ahead of everybody.
Yeah,
we had him for the money last year.
Yep. Cowboys. How bad do the Cowboys need a break, and what does this team look like in Week 8?
Oh. This was a team, I told you, I was one of the few people, I did not see how the Cowboys were going to be good this year. I said they were going to miss the playoffs. This defense has some names, but they're not a great defense. And then the offense, no running game. I mean, you're literally relying on Dak and CeeDee Lamb to do everything. I thought this was going to be a bad team, and they're not looking great. I don't know how you fix it. I think morale in Dallas is real low. I think some people are going to get fired. I don't know what else is to do, at least for this year. I don't know what you can do for them, but I think this Dallas team is in trouble.
What I don't understand is what, Jake Ferguson has a couple good weeks, but I don't know why he's not involved more. He's either 20 points a game or 5 points a game. I don't know why he's not involved in the offense more.
Yeah, honestly, they've just been super inconsistent. I mean, right now they're sitting there at 3-3, and I tell you what, they're really lucky to be 3-3. They could be a lot worse than that. They should have lost to the Steelers. They luckily came back and won that on the final play of the game. They could right now, I mean, literally be a lot worse. I mean, they got absolutely crushed by the Lions before the bye week. Like I said, one of the last play a game against the Steelers. Barely beat the Giants in the 20-15 game. And then they're going to go back and look at probably their best game of the year was a 3-point loss to Baltimore is going to probably end up looking like their best game of the season. So, they had a nice win against Cleveland. That looks terrible now as Cleveland's also. They lost at New Orleans, which is New Orleans is good. Well, now New Orleans has lost 5 straight. They look terrible. I mean, at this point, this team's got a rough go ahead. Niners, Falcons, Eagles, Houston, Washington. This team is going to be picking top 15.
Dude, that game last week versus Detroit. You and me both have coached youth football, and sometimes your team is better than you think it is, and you play a team that's just absolutely terrible. So you just run plays just to kind of work through your playbook and you're scoring on 5 drives in a row. You're like, oh man, I didn't mean to do that. But it was kind of one of those games where it was so.
It was exactly like that. I felt like that because that was my flag football team last week. My best player, my quarterback, was gone. I was like, all right, who else wants to play QB this week? I was like, we'll just try some stuff out. I'm like, we'll just run all these short patterns. We ended up scoring on every freaking drive in the game, and we ended up winning 56-14. And I'm playing anybody and everybody that wants to play quarterback. Yeah. And I'm just dumping off little short passes, trying to be nice about it. And we're just scoring every play. And I'm not trying to run it up, man. I was like looking at the other coach. I'm like, sorry, dude. I was like, I'm not trying to be a jerk here. I'm like trying to throw it to every guy on my team that hasn't had a catch this year. I'm like, throw it to him, and we're still scoring. So yeah.
At the end of the game, when you walk across the field to shake hands, you're like, dude, I was just going through the playbook. I didn't mean to score. We had our backups, and sorry about that. We're not trying to run a score. I felt like that's what Dan Campbell had to say to McCarthy last week.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely terrible. That was brutal. Dolphins, is Tua really going to play this week, or is he just trying to get the NFL to make him retire? That was our question we talked about earlier.
I actually think Tua plays this week. I think he plays this week unless something crazy happens in practice. I think he's ready to go this week. So I like Tua. And you know what? I just traded away Tyreek Hill. I'm all of a sudden I'm just getting ready to dump all my Dolphins players, and now Tua's going to come back, and the offense will look good again, and I'll be like pissed I got rid of everybody.
Dude, I tell you what, a lot of Dolphins fans were pretty pissed off because they kept showing tidbits of the coach and a couple of the players laughing on the sidelines when they're getting smoked, and it's like, what is so funny? What is so funny? This team can't beat anybody with a winning record. What is so funny? Like, Dolphins fans are absolutely pissed right now at the organization. Like, they're not even trying to make any moves. You know, like, I don't know what moves you make in a 2 or 3 week window when you know that Tua is probably coming back, but they are just like, they don't give a shit. They're like, okay, we're just going to punt until Tua comes back. You imagine being a season ticket holder and going to those games, and they're just shitting all over the field at the time. It's a pretty bad atmosphere in Miami right now with Dolphins
fans. We did skip my Colts, John, just so you know.
Oh shit! How did I do that? Jeez. Is Anthony Richardson?
I'll go quick. Anthony Richardson, the long-term plan. For now, he has to be. I think you got to go with him. I know I've had this conversation with everybody. They're like, well, wouldn't they have a better shot to win with Joe Flacco? Yeah, I kind of think they would have a better shot to win with Joe Flacco. But again, if you keep sitting Anthony Richardson, he doesn't get any game experience. That's the whole point everyone's talked about him, is he has hardly any game experience throughout his career. I also think people are stat watching him. They look at the stats. They seem like complete, like 48% of his passes. They're doing this and they're like, oh, he's terrible. If you watch the games, the guy has got an unreal arm. He can throw the football. He's just got to figure it out when he take a little bit off. He got a 50-yard completion that was down to the one, could have been a touchdown to Alec Pierce, called back on just a terrible penalty on the left tackle being, this much off the guy. I'm hating these. That call is the worst call. They got to get rid of those. It's so dumb. And it's so inconsistent when they're calling it, but he's got talent. He's got to just keep getting better. I mean, they're going without JT, which hurts, but he's played better than the stats. I will say that. Now, they haven't been pretty. They absolutely have not been pretty, so I won't say that. And he's missed throws, but he's also not got a lot of help from some of his wideouts this year. He's had some deep balls dropped. He's had some plays where guys broke the wrong way. It's not 100% all on Richardson. Will they be better with Flacco? Right now they would be, but you got to play AR at some point. You got to let him learn.
I always say, like, hey, man, let these rookies play in practice and let a veteran like Joe Flacco play in the game just to get, I know he needs game reps, but you also have to win football games too. I mean, I think that's the solution, is just until you see the improvement in practice, like, just don't throw him on the field. Let Flacco win a couple games with, him throwing the ball. And go in the film room after the game and say, hey, this is the defense. They were to cover 2. They were to cover 1. They were to cover 0. When this blitz, you got to look for this dump off. Like, walk through. Let Joe Flacco explain to him what he saw through his eyes. And, that's the only way to get him up to speed, is to understand what's going through a veteran's head. Like, why they're making the moves they're doing, what's going on. I think it's more valuable than just throwing somebody on the field and letting them, get beat up and, not making the right plays and lose games and then get his confidence shit on. So that's just the way I look at it. But, I understand that. I'm not the GM or organization. You paid a lot of money for these guys. You want him to get better, but there's a process to this kind of stuff. It's not as easy as we make it out to be. Just throwing the field.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how it works out with the Colts keep playing AR, where the Panthers have gone the other side and they benched Bryce Young, even though they're still losing and the Colts could be winning. I mean, you got to realize too here with the Colts, they're in the wild card hunt right now. They're 4-3. Yeah. They're in the playoffs at the moment. So it's not like they're the 1-6 Panthers. So they're actually like in the hunt. So it's a tough one. I will say this. I'm just glad they have Joe Flacco, which I actually pains me to say that, because I just can't stand Joe Flacco as a ex-Raven. But I am glad to see him on the sidelines because if anything happens with AR, I know he can go in and at least win ball games.
We're on the Eagles now, right?
Yep.
So, well, I'm in a stacked team. Like, I mean, I took over an orphan that was an absolute stacked team because some dude just, I don't know whatever happened, but it was handed me this gold mine. Okay. I mean, I'm not even going to read the roster. It's just, when I say gold mine, by my standards, it's a gold mine. It's the best team I've ever had in my life, but it had no running backs. This guy actually had a plan. And I had like 27 draft picks for this league with nowhere to put these guys. So I had to get rid of some picks. So in a team I had no running backs, I got Saquon. I traded what's my first in this league. It'd probably be the 112. If not, probably the 111. If worst case scenario. I sent Saquon away. I got a late first, Zamir White, my second, and the second best team in the league second, my third, and the second best team in the league third, and a late fourth. I mean, is that worth it? That seems like a steal.
So you traded your late first, White, 2 seconds, 2/3, and a fourth for Saquon.
Yes.
Not if your team's loaded and you're going to win it. Saquon, I mean, to be honest with you, Saquon and Derrick Henry have been the top 2 running backs in the league. Like, I think Zamir is toasted. I don't like him. I don't think he's good anyway. So a first, which is you say the last first, 2 late seconds, 2 late thirds, and a fourth for Saquon. I think that's totally worth it. I'd make that move, especially if I have a loaded team that's in win now. Because I also think Saquon's going to give you more than just this year. I think I said it. I think he's got if he's on a good team with a good line like the Eagles, he's got easily a couple good years left in him.
And I got 3 firsts and 4 seconds left to play with. And it's still a misdraft. It's just ridiculous.
Like I said, especially I've had that league where I've traded picks where if you looked at it face value, I probably lost. But I'm like, I have too many picks. I don't have anywhere to put these guys. I might as well, make the moves and get guys I know that I can start. We got another one here. Let's see. Let's throw up another question here. Augusto. We got my RBs. Hall, Brees Hall, Kamara, Chase Brown, J.K. Dobbins, Kareem Hunt, Chubb, wide receivers, London Neighbors, Godwin, Deontay, Juju, and tight end Bowers and Hawkins. I like where your head's at here. I need to go for a good wide receiver because of the Godwin injury. He said, who should I go for and who should I give up in this mix here?
I'd go after a guy like Olave, who's been underrated right now. That's my number one target right now because he's been hurt. He's been not playing. I'm throwing my dart at Olave right now, thinking that when Carr comes back, he's just having a bad start to the season. So Olave is my chasing after target right now.
Yeah,
I don't know, like somebody. I'm not sure what the rest of your team looks like or what kind of picks you have, whatever. But I would try to pay the least amount. Send some low ball offers for Olave to see if you can get through, and then maybe you get a counter offer, and you can go back and forth. But I wouldn't pay too much for Olave because you don't want to overspend, like overshoot. If you definitely need to get him right now, then go ahead and pay full price for him. But you got some time. It's only Tuesday morning right now. You got a couple days to get Olave, get some trades out for Olave right now. But who would you go after, JT?
Yeah, I'm pulling up a list right here so I can see what some wideouts I'd kind of shoot for. I would have told you definitely go after George Pickens before this last week, but now I think he's going to cost you way too much. Right. After the really nice performance, I think people are back on him. If you're willing to sell, if you're willing to go out and buy and give up some pretty good capital, I think T. Higgins is a nice buy. If you can go get T, he's not going to be cheap.
Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have to give up like maybe a Deontay and like a first and maybe something else to get him, but that's not a bad look as far as, some people I think are willing to maybe give up Higgins.
What about Juju?
Juju, I don't think you can trade Juju and get anything. Honestly, that's the only problem there. I don't think you're going to be able. If you do Juju, I would have packaged it, but I think you would have had to package it before he got hurt this last week. Because now I think if you're trying to move him, people are just going to be like, "Oh, nope, there he is. He's out again. He's hurt." So I think that hurts a little bit there.
He needs a wide receiver for Godwin. Like, who would you get instead of Godwin? I guess for like low ball kind of guys right now.
I think and this might sound crazy, but I think you could go get like a Michael Pittman or a Josh Downs. People are down on the Colts because of AR. I think those guys you could pay less than you would have had to a couple weeks ago, at least. I think those guys are worth decent targets.
I got one for
A
you.
guy that I'm picking up, John, and he's not a great target as far as you're not going to get a ton of points, but he's at least been reasonable and like in the mix on a good offense, and that's Darnell Mooney.
Yeah.
And you're not going to have to pay a ton for him. So, is Mooney going to be great for you? He's not going to give you Godwin production now. He's not going to. But if you just need another guy to kind of fill in there to go with London and Neighbors, if Deontay's banged up and until Juju gets back, that might not be a bad move. I love Powers and Hawkinson. It'll be interesting to see if Hawk can get back and play. You could always kind of, if you got a team that's kind of out of it, that is like looking to get guys for next year, you could maybe try to move Godwin and Hawkinson and get somebody a little bit better if you get a team that's like, hey, I can dump those guys on IR for right now. My team's out of it this year. Those maybe aren't bad moves.
What about a guy like Tyreek Hill that somebody's down on right now that somebody's off my roster?
If you could go like, with Tua coming back, if you could go after like a Waddle or a Tyreek, give up like Hawk, Godwin in like a second or third, or maybe like one of those guys in a first and a second. See if somebody be interested in taking that. I don't think that's a terrible move. Somebody it'd probably cost you more to get Puka. But you could always look at Puka or like a Cooper Kupp. If you got somebody that's kind of out of it, they might be willing to move off a Kupp coming back from injury, just because he's a little bit older. That might be a nice little fill in for Godwin there. I would maybe kick the tires on like a Cooper Kupp or a Tyreek and see how much that would cost you. See if you could give up maybe like a Godwin or a Hawk, depending on your draft picks. I would be willing if I feel like this team is good enough to win it, which I like. I think this is a pretty solid team, man. Hall, Chase Brown, Kamara can pick it back up. London and Neighbors, I like a ton. Bowers, I love. So I definitely think you can make some moves there as a goose. I think you've got a decent amount of options there.
London's an underrated asset, man. You don't hear his name too often, but he's a solid but deadly player. I like him a lot. We got another one, Dalton.
Should I trade Bijan for Swift and Jaden Reed? 1 point PPR redraft. Need a receiver. My RBs besides Bijan is James Conner, Etienne. Wide receivers are Waddle, Pittman, Kupp. Ooh.
I mean, Swift for Bijan is not. I mean, I'm unfortunate. I mean, to say that what people don't want to hear, but Swift and Bijan are kind of a lateral move at this point almost. Then you're getting a free Jaden Reed almost, or like maybe Bijan is worth a little bit more than Swift. If this is Dynasty, I'm gonna keep Bijan.
Yeah, redraft. He's in redrafts here. 1 PPR. Man, you got to hope that Waddle with Tua coming back picks it up. Kupp, they're thinking is going to play on Thursday night. If he kind of picks it back up, Pittman has actually, last week was actually solid with AR. He was okay. I do like Connor. The only problem is you make that move. Yeah, you don't have ETN is out right now. Man, I really wish you had Tank Bigsby. That would be really nice.
Yeah.
Oh, John, that's a toughie, man. Bijan's been crushing it, but in a redraft, I don't mind making some of those moves in a redraft.
Swift has been playing lights out.
Swift's been really good, and Jaden Reed, I think, is definitely a playable guy. If you could hold out like another week, and hopefully that Waddle with Tua and then Kupp coming back, I think you could be all right because I like Bijan, Connor, Waddle, Pittman, Kupp. I like that, but if you feel like you need to pull the trigger, I don't think that's a terrible move.
No. Vegas Jeff, where's Kupp going? Minnesota, baby. Let's get my guy Sam Darnold getting some more weapons.
Yeah, this is really interesting. I just saw this. I was late to the party today. Obviously, this has been getting discussed a lot here today, whether they're going to move them. The Rams kind of like it's just ugly over there. So how long are they going to hold on to some of these guys? I could definitely see Minnesota doing something. The Steelers need to do something bad. They know they need to do something bad. I think he would fit really well with them. They need a guy that can kind of work across the middle, can kind of just find his way open and let Pickens play deep. Also, Austin's a deep guy too. So Cup to the Steelers would be phenomenal.
Yeah.
If they're going to make a move to make it happen. I just don't. They're just usually not the guys that do that. As you saw, Devontae didn't go there. They were on a couple other guys. I would have thought maybe the Bills, but after they just made the Cooper move, probably not. Trying to think who else might be able to use Cup, would have enough. I just saw this. I don't know you do it, but do you make them move if you're the Bucks?
Oh, I mean, they're
trade for him and see if he replaces Godwin, or do you let the young guys roll?
Don't do that to my McMillan shares, please. Don't.
I know that's that one's a toughie. Those would be kind of the places I would think off the top of my head, because I'm thinking of the teams that need them and can use them. I just don't think they're going to make that move. And I don't think that the Rams will trade him in division. I don't think they will.
Is that overrated, or is that, I mean, how, if you're getting what you want, if San Francisco says, here's my second, go ahead, have at it. And we're going to, second's a lot of draft capital in the NFL. If they're going to eat a lot of the contract, all you have to do is give a second round pick to get Cooper Kupp and win a Super Bowl. That's worth it. I mean,
I think it's worth it for the Niners. I'm just not sure the Rams would do it with the Niners. They've got a lot of bad blood there. I'm not sure they would make that trade. If I'm the Niners, I make that trade. Because I'm hoping Ricky Purcell ends up being Cooper Kupp one day, but I don't think he's going to be doing it this year.
What about the Cowboys?
I think the Cowboys are wasting capital because I don't think they can make the playoffs. I think even if they trade for Cooper Kupp, they can't make the playoffs. So I wouldn't make that move if I'm the Cowboys, because I know they're 3-3 right now, but I told you they're the most. They should not even be 3-3, and they got a tough schedule coming up. I think this team is in trouble.
Big trouble. Well, anyway, we just had a question about Bijan over here, and think we're on the Falcons. So Bijan went nuts, but the Falcons lost. Do they keep featuring him, or how did they fix this offense?
Yeah, I don't think it was an offense problem. It was just one of those weird games that they just really had a hard time stopping the Seahawks, and then just had a couple bad turnovers and things at just the wrong time, and that thing just kind of swung. I don't think this is a something for Atlanta that's going to be a week-to-week thing. The thing is, if you're a fantasy manager, the one thing you got to be pumped is you're finally getting a solid workload week to week for Bijan. He had 21 carries, 103 yards, and a touch. Also 3 catches for 40 yards. He now has 18 or more touches in 5 of 7 games this year. Begging for that last year. Now you can get 18 plus touches in 5 of 7 games. So I think they're going to continue to keep him in the offense and going. So if you've got Bijan, I think you're pretty pumped about it right now.
Like we just talked about last week's show, I just traded 2 late first. My team is absolutely stacked in this league. I traded 2 late first to get Bijan. So now I got Derrick Henry and Bijan as my running backs. And I got
boom.
I gave away 2 I gave away 2 third round 2 first, and I got 2 late first. I got Bijan and 2 early thirds back in return for it. So I was super happy about that. So all right, so we just talked about the 49ers too. Who's next man up after the Ayuk ACL injury? So what do the 49ers do in this situation?
Well, I think Jennings is the guy that's going to see a lot more looks. He's been banged up, though. I think Ricky Purcell's a guy to really keep an eye on. I mean, they obviously liked him. Is the injury, from the shooting, obviously he's back and he's playing, so they think he's good. And it's not like they eased him into the first game. He's at almost an 80% snap share. This very first game in the league. I think Ricky Purcell's the guy I want to keep an eye on. I think he's going to end up, maybe not right off the bat, but I think he's going to end up getting a lot of Ayuk's routes and touches. He's the guy I want to keep an eye on.
Yeah. Giants. Malik Neighbors is going to pout on the sidelines because he's not getting 15 targets a game. How big of a problem is it going to be for him and the Giants?
I think it's hard because I think everybody that plays for the Giants ends up pouting because I just think it rubs off on him at this point. I mean, he missed the 2 games with concussion. he'd averaged 15 targets a game in the last 3 before that. Only got 8 targets, season low 4 catches. You know how you fix this problem, John?
You're throwing the ball.
Drew Lock. Play Drew Lock. Put Drew Lock in there and let him sling it all day to Malik Neighbors. I'll just tell you this. I think he's going to see a lot more targets moving forward. If they're going to lose and they're going to lose with not throwing the ball to Neighbors, I don't think that's going to work.
Yeah, right.
He's going to be mad. I don't think the coaching staff's going to stand for not getting him the ball.
Truth. Jaguars. Funny how Trevor looks good when the team doesn't start the game down by 2 touchdowns, right?
Yeah, a little different when they're not constantly getting blitzed the entire game because they're losing. I'll tell you what, I have to bring him up because people are now all over him. My guy, Brian Thomas Jr., I was absolutely in love with him. I traded him in your league for Buka like a couple of weeks ago, and I was right after I hit accept, I was instantly regretting it because I love Brian Thomas, and Brian Thomas is looking great. I'm seeing people on Twitter like, would you rather have Brian Thomas over Marvin Harrison Jr.? And there was like a huge percentage of the poll that said yes. It was like 65% said they wanted Brian Thomas or Marvin Jr. Now, I understand that's way recency biased because he's looked really, really good the last couple games, and I still don't think I'm taking him over Marvin Harrison Jr. But I tell you what, he's over Roma Dunze for me, and he is right on the hills. He's just behind Neighbors and Harrison. He has looked great. He leads all rookie wide receivers in receiving yards with 513. He's second in catches only to Neighbors with 30, and he's tied for first in receiving touchdowns with 4. T-Law has found his new number 1. I loved Brian Thomas. I've been talking him up since I saw him at the Combine. I was like, he is easily my number 4, and he's close to my number 3. He just was an absolute stud, physical specimen. I am glad I've got the T-Law Thomas stack. Now we just need the Jags to be a little better and T-Law to pull it all together and then just start hitting Thomas all over the place. But, man, he's a beast.
It was nice to see the Jaguars be able to just run the ball and kind of ground and pound for a change instead of, like, being pressured and behind and having to, like, pull things out and rabbit on her head kind of shit, you know.
Hey, John, I tell you what, I know this is always tough as fantasy managers, but I hope you didn't give up on Tanks Bisbee right away. 1 year of literally not touching the ball. You would have thought this team hated his freaking guts his rookie year because they refused to play him. And all of a sudden, he's looking great the last couple of weeks. And now people are like, when Etienne comes back, does he start over Etienne? I think it's a valid question.
Everybody knew that he was a good between the tackles runner, and most of my leagues are full PPR, if not more, for receivers. So I think basically it was never really even on my radar. But I mean, just the volume alone and what he's doing with it is tough to dismiss, you know, as far as that goes. So I get it. I was out on Bisbee from day one just because of the PPR aspect, but I got to rethink my process if I'm, being that, horse rider with my thoughts. So I was wrong on this one for sure. Lions, Jameson Williams makes Sam Laporta Jameson Williams suspension makes Sam Laporta a buy low for sure right now, right?
Yeah, if you can. I mean, I'm guessing people aren't bailing on Laporta just yet after, the great rookie season he had last year. If somebody is willing to sell on him, I'd be all over Laporta. I'm still on Laporta. We knew he was going to take a little step back this year, even if it wasn't like actually in play. It's just fantasy production because he was just so productive as a rookie, and you knew he'd see a little bit more the defense is paying a little more attention to him. So I'm still a Laporta guy. I like Laporta. But yeah, if somebody's out on him, got to sweep in there and take a shot.
I sent a Mark Andrews offer. I sent away Mark Andrews to try and get Laporta in a Dynasty league this morning after the big game. I'm not sure if that's bad or not, but I figured, hey, man, Laporta's already – Andrews is already, 30, 31 years old. I'm like, this is my chance to re-rack right now if they're a big game, that kind of stuff. And somebody's pissed off with Laporta. Those are the kind of shots as soon as you have to take, I guess, But I might if Andrews goes absolutely nuts this year, the rest of the season, then it's my fault. But I think long term, I think in the Dynasty, I think that was a pretty good trade on my part.
Yeah, Vegas Jeff says he hasn't found anybody yet that's down on Laporta that he can snag from. I know the feeling, Jeff. I said, if you could get it, that'd be great. I don't know if there's a lot of those guys out there willing to part with Laporta without giving up a ton.
Because they won him so many games last year. Because he won him so many games last year, absolutely, for sure.
And he's a young tight end on a freaking awesome offense. People don't want to get rid of those guys.
I traded away Josh Jacobs before the season started. I knew that the Packers were going to be a pretty good team, but I mean, was holding him one more year worth it? If something happens to him, I don't know what his future is. I like Josh Jacobs a lot, but did I trade him a year too early for sure, or was that kind of a good move to get rid of him?
I tell you what, I had Jacobs in a couple leagues, and I was down a little bit too. I was like, oh, I'm not 100% sure here. I actually just traded him like maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago when I thought CMC had to come back soon. I gave up Jacobs and Terry McLaurin for CMC, and I'm just holding that bag still. Now, the only thing is, this team I have is not very good. I've got injuries all over the place, so now I'm fighting for a top 3 pick, and now I'm just hoping for a healthy CMC next year and a top 3 pick after that. So that one was a trade. I think I got blinded by my CMC love. And I made that move. If I was contending, I would definitely said I lost that trade, but I had a team that was already a little rough.
Carolina Panthers. Do they go back to Bryce Young now?
I don't know what the plan is. It's not any different. I mean, I understand when you made the move because maybe you want to get him out of there before he totally got his confidence crushed. But I think the Red Rifle's out of bullets, man. He did not look good. He came in that week 3. They started 300 yards, 3 touches. Like, look at Andy Dalton. He's been on those struggle bus 4 straight games, just coming off a 40-7 loss. He threw for 93 yards and 2 picks against Washington, who's put up a lot of points, but it hasn't been the greatest defense. And Dalton did absolutely nothing in that game. So unless they have some plan where they're like, hey, we know we suck and we don't want to get him killed or lose all his confidence, then I say, okay, man, sit him. If that's your team plan, if that's what Canales is saying, he's like, hey, I want this guy to learn. I don't want to shatter his confidence by him, just getting the crap kicked out of him and people talking smack about him all year. If that's your game plan, then fine, send him the whole year, get the number 1 pick again, and move on from there. If that's not your game plan, you were just like, hey, we were trying to win and we're trying to play the best guy. What now? Put them in. I mean, they're already bad. They're 1-5, I think it is. They're not going to get any better. You might as well let them play. So it really kind of depends on what their coaching philosophy is, and I hope they really know what it is, and they're not just going week to week. Because if they are, that's not good. It sounds like something the Panthers would be doing, but let's hope they have some kind of game plan.
I have no idea how these guys like Red Rocket and Mariota come in for one game and look like they've been like the MVP, the hidden MVP of the league, and then like you let them play for 2 or 3 weeks, and like now all of a sudden they the carriage turns into a pumpkin again all the time for these guys. I don't know how they just can't be consistent.
Yeah, it's the NFL, man. It's tough week to week. You see. I mean, how many times have we seen a team look freaking amazing one week and everybody's on board like, yeah, they're the favorites, and then they go out and they just lay a fucking egg the next week and look awful against some bad team after they just beat like the second best team in the league the week before. It's the NFL, man. It's just that's how it works. It's crazy. I mean, you're telling me that you would have said, if I would have told you at the beginning of the year that Patrick Mahomes is not going to finish higher than quarterback 14 or 15 the first 6 weeks, he's going to have 6 touchdowns and 8 picks. There's no way you're going to tell me the Chiefs are 6-0.
No,
I mean,
right, exactly. I thought Brock Purdy was going to be like a quarterback 20 something this year. I thought he was going to have a big regression.
Well, and then you're on the other side. The complete opposite side of that is you have Brock Purdy, who's playing out of his mind with nonstop wide receiver injuries. The best player in the league, CMC's out all year. He's playing his balls off, and his team's 3-4.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes no freaking sense.
Right. Absolutely. I don't know if you saw this or not, but Jared Mayo called his defense soft. We're talking about the Patriots now. Call his defense soft. And Belichick going on live on TV and saying, hey, it was number 1 running defense last year. I don't know what the problem is. Don't call your players soft. You're the problem. What do you think about that interaction?
Yeah, that one was kind of wild. I think that was Belichick's chance to take a little bit of a shot there. A little shot at him. I mean, he's coached with teams and coached with other coaches that said stuff like this. Bill Parcells used to rip into guys all the time, and
Right.
Belichick coached with him. So, not calling out your players. I know we're a little bit of a different day and age where everyone is super sensitive, and you can't say anything mean about players. But I mean, is Mayo wrong? I mean, the Pats have sucked. They've not been good. Now, some of that, obviously can be coaching. Coaching can be a problem, but also sometimes you're gonna be like, hey, we're telling you what to do and you're not doing it. I've been there as a coach. I'm telling you exactly what you should be doing. You're not doing it and we're failing because of it. There's other times, I just didn't make an adjustment as a coach to get things done. So that's tough. I don't know. To me, I'm always hoping that if a coach does this is because he knows his team well enough to know that's going to motivate him. Hopefully, hopefully it works that way as opposed to him pissing everyone off and now they all hate him more. I don't know.
can see Jared Mayo having a short shelf life there because they start saying stupid shit like that to players, and then getting called out by a guy like Belichick. Yeah, so
yeah, it's definitely not a good look for him.
No, not at all. Raiders. What is the next move? Like, I don't know where this team.
The next move is to just fight your way, get through this season, finish as bad as you possibly can be, and then go out and draft Shadur Sanders, quarterback, Colorado. He was my call last year. I said the Raiders are going to take Sanders and then get him. I think that's the move. Him in Vegas, Dion in Vegas. That's, can't get any better than that. I think that's the Raiders. We're just call it quits, man. Minshew Mania is back. It's not going to be a pretty mania. He's been a turnover machine this year, as I've always said. I love him, but the guy turns the ball over, leads the league with 10 turnovers so far. But hey, he's in the mix the next couple of weeks. But already trading Adams. Only thing I ever look forward to seeing in this Raiders team is I just want to see Brock Bowers get pelted with 1 million targets. That's what Minshew should do. That's what they should tell him the rest of the year. If you do anything, if you turn the ball over, whatever, man, we don't care. We want you to get Brock Bowers as many touches as possible. That's what they should do.
Right. Don't mess up my Brock Bowers shirt. I traded Deshaun Watson for the 107, which turned into Brock Bowers in my fantasy, in my huge premium league. And I'm so happy about that. So don't piss on my Cheerios now, okay, buddy? That's Rams. Right. Cooper Kupp to Minnesota. Is that going to be a thing?
I don't know. I mean, he could go there. I don't want to say they don't need him because any team could really use him.
Yes.
But I mean, Addison's look good. Naylor's actually been a real nice surprise. Jefferson, they spread the ball around.
They do.
If Kupp can go there, I think he's going to help that team. But I'm not sure. This is a team that's up and coming and building. I'm not sure they want to give away very high draft picks. If they can eat some cost and not have to give too much up for them, I can see him making the move. Because again, I hate to say this, but they're 5-1. You got to go for it. You don't know if you're going to be in this position next year with JJ McCarthy or what's going to happen with Darnold. Mm-hmm. If you get a chance, you got to go for it.
Yeah, I get it. I don't know. I sat Aaron Jones this week in a league. It probably would have won me. I played Ramondre Stevenson in center. Aaron Jones.
Stevenson's killing me.
He's absolutely fucking. I was a huge Ramondre guy because he's a 4th round pick or I think a 5th round pick or whatever. I know he's late. I don't know what round he was in or drafted, but he did so good. And now he's got this opportunity. It's like, why do these guys overachieve, and then they get the ball handed? Come on, man. It just drives me absolutely nuts. But whatever. Off my Ramondre Stevenson. Ravens. Was the Mandrews slow season start due to his preseason car accident?
I think it could have been a factor. I mean, you've ever been in a car accident, you never know. I mean, it can take a while for your body to kind of get back together. He's an older player. I mean, I figured they'd work him in at some point. I mean, obviously everybody was basically saying he was dead, but a nice game for him last week. This Ravens team, man, they're looking good again. Looking high-powered offense. They can keep it rolling here. I mean, King Henry. Gosh, guy is just an absolute tank. He's looking great. If he can stay healthy, man, this Ravens team is gonna be tough to stop.
They look good. I like watching Ravens play football, man. Lamar looked really. I
I
don't like
know
Lamar.
it
I'm not a
hurts
big
me
Lamar fan.
so much as a Steelers fan, but dang, Lamar's good and they are fun to watch. It
Yeah,
sucks.
I'm not a big Lamar fan because I hate playground football and that's what he plays a lot. But man, he was fucking good doing it. That's the only. And you can't be a football player. It is what it is.
Still
Saints.
my biggest regret all time dynasty move. I told myself, no matter what, my little yellow notepad sheet, Lamar, no matter what, in my draft, and then it got to me, and guess what I did? The biggest choke job in the history of choke jobs. I took Josh freaking Rosen for no other reason than that my hate for the Ravens and the fact that Joe Flacco was there. And I was like, oh, they won't even play Lamar for like 2 or 3 more years because Flacco just won a Super Bowl.
That is absolutely
Moron, man. I mean, I
hilarious.
every time I look at him in this league, it just kills me that I didn't take Lamar there. Stupid.
That is absolutely
That one burns all the time, John. It burns all the time.
That's like losing a finger, like in real life. That's the equivalent of like losing your hand or something like that.
And this is a 2 QB league, bro. 2 QB league with a lot of bonus points for stuff, and I've been paying for it ever since.
Got a question from Mondo9969. Mondo. Should I do Jaden Reed for James Cook? My RBs are Aaron Jones, Kareem Hunt, Mason, Pacheco, and Brooks. My wide receivers are Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, Shakir, Odunze, and Lazard. Let's see. Let me swallow this again.
I feel like this is a pretty even trade, John. Reed for Cook. The problem is, man, running backs are so hard to come up with a decent running back. Aaron Jones has been a little banged up. I mean, you're getting Kareem Hunt now, but if Pacheco comes back, he could steal that role.
I just see a redraft. Mondo.
Yeah, Hunt. Yeah, like I said, then Mason, right now depends on CMC. If this is redraft, I could lean a little more Reed just to get some help at wide receiver, but hopefully Tyreek takes a step back up here with Tua coming back. Jefferson, Tyreek, Odunze. I still think we talked about him earlier. I think Odunze is gonna work his way back in here. Lazard, the Adams trade kills him. That really knocks him off. And then Shakir, I think he could still be in the mix, but Cooper obviously hurts him. This one is a good one. This is redraft. He says Mondo says start 2 flex redraft.
Boy, the trading window on Shakir was like 2 or 3 weeks ago, man. Like you could have got a lot for Shakir probably 2 or 3 weeks ago. Now I think he's just going to be just lost in the shuffle now, man. Maybe 40 targets a year. That's kind of what he's doing anyway. But man, I think you lost out if you didn't trade Shakir off your roster already.
What do you think, John? James Cook's played way better than I anticipated this year so far.
Tough. And I also think the Bills have a handful of decent running backs too.
And I like Ray. I love Ray Davis, and he's starting to look good.
Yeah,
God, man, I tell you what, I gotta go Reed.
Yeah.
And I gotta go. I like Jaden Reed a lot. He was down a little bit last week. I thought he'd have a big week, but I think he's the Packers' best wide receiver. I really do.
Yeah.
So I'm taking Reed, and you probably got enough at running back to keep that thing alive. I don't mind that at all because then you can go Jefferson, Tyreek, Reed, Odunze, Jones, and Mason, and then either Hunt or Pacheco. I like that. I make that move, Mondo. Go ahead, trade Reed for Cook. I trade Cook for Reed.
There you go. Ghost Party. What did I miss with that one? Something went over my head here.
Michigan State guy. Who am I missing? Oh, no, Jaden Reed, Michigan State guy.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, Jaden Reed. And then also he said, if not for Lamar Jackson, Goff would be early MVP. I think Goff is in the mix, man. I think until Lamar had that big 5 TD game on a Monday night, which means everyone's going to be talking about him, I think everyone had Goff as MVP favorite until that moment. I think Goff's right in the mix.
Yeah. He said he would be trading Reed for Cook. I would just keep Reed. I think
he's trading Reed for Cook. I'm going Reed. I think I'm going Reed. Cook, if you're worried about your running backs, I think that's a pretty even trade. So if you are worried about the Hunt Pacheco, Jones being injured and what Mason's done, I can make that trade. I like Reed better than Cook, but in a redraft, if you're worried about your running backs, I think that's an even trade.
Yeah, it's a horse race. Do what you got to do to get to the finish line. That's pretty much what redraft is. Yeah. Saints. Is this the season the Saints finally just implode all together with financial and player problems surfacing all at the same time? Like, is this the year where the Saints just die? Like the whole franchise just goes into
mode? I agree. I think they do. I think so. I think they were like, this is our last shot. Excuse me. They're like, hey, we can win this division. This isn't a great division. We're all pretty equal. They came out with those 2 first games of the year. I think they're like, bam, we're ready to roll. Defense looked good. Carr looked efficient. It's all falling apart now. Everybody's hurt. Carr's been banged up. Rashid Shaheed's out for the whole year. The defense, which looked phenomenal the first couple of games of the year, is just a sieve. The last few, I think we're in absolute crash and burn mode for the Saints. I think they've been holding on. And now the salary cap issues, everyone's like, oh, they can keep putting them off. I think they're screwed. They're not going to be able to hold on to these guys. They're going to have to start dumping guys for anything they can get out of them or someone to eat some of their salaries. I think they're in trouble, man. I really think the Saints, they're in that middle ground mode. And it's like now even if they want to tank, they owe so many guys so much money for so many years that I think they're just they're in a real bad spot because I don't think they can get rid of some of these guys.
Mm-hmm. No, they brought a brand new Cadillac to a Smash Derby. Is pretty much what happened here with this team. That's like the equivalent of the Saints right now. Seahawks. Is Kenneth Walker a must-have right now? Is he just a go after like the K9?
I like Kenny Walker a ton. He came back from injury. He was a little beat up. He hasn't taken the full load there, but this is just a high-powered Seahawks offense, and I just think I really like him as a player. He was my favorite running back in that draft class. Right behind me. I just thought he was highly underrated. I still think he's slightly underrated. So I like him a lot. It is again in that offense. As long as he's healthy, he's the guy. They've shown it. They're not going to split time with Charbonnet. They'll give Sharp some carries and some touches here and there, but whenever Walker's healthy, it's his backfield.
How the hell do guys like Charbonnet have to go to teams like this to get ruined? I mean, I don't get it, man. I just don't. Why would you take these guys? The good running backs, just stick them on teams you don't fucking need them.
Jeff's like, hey, let's keep talking green and white. That's right. We're just talking all the Sparty players up right now, Jeff. We'll keep it rolling for you. I got some East Lansing, Michigan State fans and family up north there.
My wife's nephew is at Michigan State right now. He's a senior. We haven't gone out there for Parents Weekend. It's Parents Weekend, but his dad's divorced. It is. So my wife went out there last year to go, and they had a great time. But we're gonna try and go out for Parents Weekend and just take the kids out, try and get them all fucked up, and have a great time at Michigan State. It's a good. I've been to that campus a couple times. It's a great school to party at. They have a good time. But Steelers was going to Russell Wilson the right move for the Steelers.
I was absolutely avid 100% against it. I like Justin Fields. I wanted to stay with Fields, but I'd have to tell you what, I have to eat a little bit. Russ played well. Team looked good. I'm hoping it stays this way. Oh yeah. Let's go to Hopcat. Hopcat, great brewery. Vegas, Jeff. Yeah, absolutely. Love Hopcat. Nice spot up there in Michigan. Been to a couple Hopcats in my life. Man, I hoping Russ ends up being great. I'm hoping this doesn't kill Fields. They asked him about it. He said, I just didn't play good enough. I think Fields is the future, so I just really don't want to see the Steelers screw this up with Russ, but Russ played pretty well. We'll see if he can keep it up. I think Fields would have played almost as good, to tell you the truth. I really do. Because everybody's like, oh, he unlocked Pickens. I'm like, Pickens played really well, but also Fields threw a lot of those same passes and either got pass interference calls or offensive penalties that were completions too, would have been there too. So I don't know. I'm a Fields guy.
if you're the Steelers right now and you think you've seen Russ play, you're kind of like, okay, this is what we got now. You trade Fields for like a second round pick right now?
I don't think they can get a second for Fields. That's the problem.
A fourth, maybe a third, like get your money back kind of thing.
Plays over 50% of the plays, 51% of the plays, then you have to give up a fourth. So you'd have to get a fourth back or third return. I just think even if Russ plays this whole year, I think Fields is the future for them. I really do. I know there's a ton of people who don't like Fields. They don't think he's ever going to be a good quarterback. I don't believe that. I think he can be. I think he's looked good. I think he's the future. I mean, you're not going to get a couple more years out of Russ, I don't think. So I want Fields. I think he's the long-term guy here. I wouldn't trade him. I hold him. I'm not putting all my eggs in Russ basket for the next 2 or 3 years, because again, if you get rid of Fields, you're basically putting yourself in a position where you're going to have to go out and draft a quarterback next year.
Yep. So I feel like Justin Fields is a great athlete, a great thrower of the football, a great everything possible. But I just feel like he just can't read defenses. I think that's the only thing. He can throw the ball pretty accurate sometimes. You can see. I mean, he looks like he's got to throw like Ken Griffey swings a bat. It's absolutely beautiful. He has time in the pocket. He steps back. His motions are just absolutely phenomenal. He does throw some good balls, but man, I just feel like he makes some stupid plays sometimes. Man, it's like, dude.
I agree with Jeff. He's a Pittsburgh's perfect place for Fields. I agree. I think it's the perfect place. And here's the thing is, Vegas game was his worst game. He was his most inaccurate game, but he's looked pretty good in a lot of other games. And then people who only look at the stats are like, oh, he only threw for 135 yards. Only threw for 105 yards. Dude, they had so many like 30 and 40-yard pass interference penalties where he was throwing beautiful balls downfield and they were having to interfere the guy so he didn't catch it. They also got multiple 40 and 50-yard passes to Pickens called back for offensive penalties. Again, you put those on the stat sheet, it's a difference maker. All of a sudden, people are like, "Oh, wait, he threw for 225 and this and." You just can't totally look at the stats the way I thought Fields was playing good enough. And again, you look at the stats, you look at what Mahomes has been doing this year. Fields has better stats than Mahomes. I hate to tell you, he's got better touchdown, better interceptions. Completion percentage is freaking close. Like he's got same amount of just a little bit less yards. So again, all these people is like they want to give certain teams excuses, other teams. No, John, you want to knock out these last 3 teams real quick, and then we'll get all in show. All in one show has a couple questions here. You want to knock out these last 3 real fast, then we'll jump on his questions.
All right, is this the week to sell Joe Mixon?
I think I don't know what I want to say about Joe Mixon because I was completely out on Joe Mixon, and Joe Mixon has completely proved me wrong. Yep. Joe Mixon, so far this year, in the 3 games he's played, the 3 full games, not kind of the one he got hurt, 3 full games, 22.7 carries, 125.3 yards a game, 1.7 touchdowns. That's RB2, and RB3 finishes for Joe Mixon. We'd be talking about him right up there with Barkley and Henry if he hadn't got hurt, if he hadn't missed a couple games. His stats are right there. He's a top 3 running back right now on a good offense. If you're young, if you got him on a team and your team's not good, sell him absolutely right now. See if you can get a late first or early second for him. If you're a contender, go buy Mixon. If he can stay remotely healthy, he has been, RB2, RB3 finish in 3 games. Again, the health is a little bit of a problem, but man, can't ask for much better than that. I thought Joe Mixon was 100% washed. So yeah. I was wrong on that.
I'm keeping him on the teams I have him on just because I'm in contention. But if I was, he'd already be off my team if I was a rebuild team for sure. But if you held him this long, I think it's if you're not winning games, you got Joe Mixon, get rid of him. Get whatever you get out. Get a first round pick and start from scratch. Just somebody who can win right now. Titans, they are too good to just settle for Will Levis. What's the next move? What do they got to do
here? That's the question. Is Will Levis? Are you going to get? How long do you let him go? How long are you like, hey, we think this guy? And again, I'm in favor of giving these quarterbacks a few years to learn and grow. Like, these guys aren't just going to come out and crush it right away. It just very rarely happens. Very rarely are you going to get a CJ Stroud type rookie season. It just doesn't hardly happen. It just doesn't. I'm out on Levis. You know that. I've always been out on Levis. I just don't think he's an NFL quarterback. I just think he's a turnover machine. And he's gonna be that his entire career. Titans got to make a decision though. Is Levis your guy? And if he is, then you got to give him two more years and then bail. If you are worried about it right now, you got to go into the draft next year looking like we got to go QB. And so the question is, there's going to be quite a few teams looking for QB. It ends up where you're drafting. You know?
Yeah, you can't. You can get rid of a small 5'9", 189 pound quarterback if he's not doing the shit. But when you got a big physical specimen, Levis, and he's actually decent at football, just not good. I think you gotta hold on to it for probably the 3 full years. In the middle of the fourth year, make your decision that you've seen enough and let him go. But yeah, it's hard to get rid of guys like that who can run, who can get you that extra like tush push first down kind of running, who could pretty much do everything. And he has a great arm, but he's just not seeing the field either. He's making a lot of bonehead stupid mistakes, which hopefully he can clean that up. But all right. Vikings. Does everyone hate Sam Darnold again because he finally lost the game?
It's like, everybody's loving Darnold. They lose a game and then everybody starts trying to trash him. Like, oh, here's Sam Darnold again. I'm like, Sam Darnold didn't play terrible. He threw like one pick, and everyone I was listening to was like, Sam Darnold blew the game. He threw that interception. I'm like, oh, so Sam Darnold throws one pick, and he blew the whole game for him. But then you get 8 picks out of Patrick Mahomes, and he's still the best player in the league. People just kill me with this stuff. I mean, Sam Darnold has been good. Here's the other thing. If you want to rip him for the early pick and everything that happened, okay. But they were down 11 points in the fourth quarter. He brought them back and took the lead with 6 minutes left. Yep. If they get that 2-point conversion, they don't lose on the field goal, and that game goes to OT. But they missed the 2-point conversion, ended up giving the last second field goal and lost. That's a great game. I mean, they just lost to the team that many people think outside of the Chiefs is the best team in the league, in the Lions. And you just lost by 2 points at home and came back. Sam Darnold brought you back in the fourth quarter down 2 scores to take the lead. I don't know how you can be hating on him just because they lost the game when he played pretty well. But hey, a lot of people are like, oh, he didn't play very good. I'm like, okay, all right, man.
That was a heavyweight match for heavyweight matches, man. That was a
great freaking game, man. Those are the games you watch those two teams go at it like that. And you're like, this is why we love football so much. It was great.
Washington football team. I dropped Marcus Mariota Sunday morning because I had too many players in my roster. Just so everybody knows, that's why Marcus Mariota got in the game and did what he did. It's my fault, right?
It's exactly why you got in and played awesome, John. And I was telling you right before the show, I've had him on a league for like 2 years because I got him in I took over in Orvin, and he was like at the end of the 7th round of like this draft, and you could take veterans, and I had drafted Ritter like late in the draft, and I took Mariota, so I had both of the Falcons guys. So I've had him on my team ever since. I dropped him last week because I had a bunch of guys come off IR and I didn't have a spots. I dropped him last week. Now I'm down to 1 QB, and of course I don't have him anymore. And I go right back to the well and I try to pick him up on waivers. I was like, of course, now I'm gonna have to spend like double the amount of money to get him right back on waivers after I dropped him off. So
the worst part about it is I just fell on my fab last week, so I have to trade players for fab now to go try and get Mariota back for it. It's like, God damn it. It's so fucking infuriating. But anyway. All right, we got it all in one show. Starting lineup is Burrow, Gibbs, Jacobs, London, Flowers, Kittle, Howard. Bench is Cousins, Dowdle, Swift, Higgins, Waddle, Kelsey, and Watson. Pretty good lineup there, my man. I don't know what league we got. Currently 3-4 on a 3-game win streak off a turnaround trade. Any advice on moves or trades to go for, or should I keep as is? How deep is your roster? I guess first of all, it's one of the questions. Like how because this isn't kind of a you're 3-4, but it's one of those teams like every team that I own right now. It's a great team. You just lose to the high score every week, probably kind of shit like that. That's what happens to me in like every league all the time. Just, you must have John McGlynn luck, or like you must have shook my hand before and set your lineup with the bad jinx fingers that I do on my phone. But is there any good players?
I'm looking at this right now. He's got Burrow, he's got Gibbs, Jacobs, and Pollard with Swift. So I love that. He's got those 4 guys at running back. I love London, Flowers. Flowers is a little banged up with the ankle, but hopefully he'll be good. Kittle. He's got T. Higgins go with Flowers and them. Waddle, I think we're going to see a little comeback with Tua. So I'm thinking hopefully a little bounce back there. And you got Kelsey, who I think, again, we're going to get some good weeks out of him. It's got to happen because literally the Chiefs are going to have some games where the offense wins them some games because right now the defense is carrying them. Man, this is a nice little run here to get to 3-4 on a 3-game win streak. Never want to give up too early. I think you got the pieces here, John. The only thing I'm seeing is super flex, that third QB with Burrow and Cousins, because it looks like I'm guessing is that Deshaun Watson? That's Christian Watson he's got there. So I don't know if this is one quarterback or two. The only thing I would think is maybe a third quarterback in super flex. But yeah, I like where this team sits, man. I really do.
Yeah, it's a pretty team.
Plenty of good teams. You're even on offense. You got good tight ends, and like the wide receivers, say London's been good with Cousins. Higgins has been stepping up since he got back, so that's nice right there. I like Flowers if he can stay healthy. I like Flowers, and hopefully you get that bounce back from Waddle with Tua to give you another good wide receiver there. Christian Watson is probably one of my least favorite guys in this group, but he's not bad. And the problem is I don't know what you could actually get for him in a trade. That if Rico Dowdle was playing a little bit better and you could like package Watson and Dowdle for a little bit of an upgrade at wideout, I'd love to do that. But I really doubt anyone is going to make that move with you. You'd probably have to do I don't know if you could upgrade much there. That's a toughie. But I do like this team. I like the 3-4 moves. Your team's on a roll. I don't know if there's any reason to mess with it unless something crazy happens. I like where you're sitting.
Yeah, I mean, quarterback wise, I would try and see, like we talked about earlier, see if Tua is on somebody got somebody shit canned too early in the season, or even James Winston right now that popped up on your waiver that you could bid on him. If it's only one quarterback lead, then like JT said before, Jatavion Sanders is somebody that I would be trying to maybe go after right now too, or try and trade up to get Cade Otton. He's going to get tons of work going forward now. So as far as the tight ends go, Cade Otton would be my one. And wide receiver wise, I'm probably going to Jalen McMillan. It's probably my number one wide receiver target if I need a wide receiver right now. As far as that goes, but that's other than that, try and get backup like Braylon Allen or something like that, or like a Tyrone Tracy, somebody that isn't like a big name recognition guy that's on a shit team that people don't have a lot of confidence in. Maybe try and go after those kind of guys. That's all I can kind of. That's my.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple moves that could be made, but it's gonna be tough to see what other people would do. But like I said, I like the lineup right now. It's looking nice, good, and your team is starting to roll. Vegas Jeff says, hold on, he says, not gonna trade for Stafford, are they? No, they're not trading for Stafford. That's not happening.
Nope. All right. Let's see.
Should be coming up here just on as we're closing in on 2 hours here, John. So Andy's last ones will kind of pop them in there, and right, anything else we want to go over.
No, that's it. I think we're good. We said enough today, JT. Thanks for being here for an hour and 52 minutes on a 45-minute show. I much appreciated. This is Dynasty Evaluation Show. We don't really do too much stats. We just talk football. We're having a good time. I laughed, I cried, I saved $5 on the waiver wire stuff. That's kind of how this stuff goes. But welcome. Thank you, all you people, for the Marcus Mariota love that I let you have, let you enjoy because of my roster decisions. And I'm John McGlynn, John McGlynn 75. You can find me on X, Dynasty Evaluation Show. Please follow it. Follow everything on Fantasy and Frames. And then I've been making these TikToks the last couple. They're kind of fun to make. I've been making these flex zooms. I put them out there. I got like seven, whatever. I don't know what it was, like 7,000 interactions the other day on one of these stupid.
Nice. There we go, John.
It's fun. It takes about it's like 3 minutes. And you put sound and shit to it. So we'll see. Maybe I'll be a millionaire one day. Me and you will buy a yacht from my TikToks. Or maybe I'll just do this once a week and have fun.
That sounds phenomenal.
But follow all the fantasy and frame stuff. JT, you got a couple shows coming up this week. I'll probably be jumping on some shows so I get the rest of this week off. So JT, tell everybody all about fantasy and frames and all about yourself.
Yeah, I got shows on tonight. Around the Ice, our hockey fantasy show. Feel free to jump on there at 8:30 tonight. We got that one going. We got the Waiver Wire show before us. So on Fantasy Frames, jump on the Waiver Wire show. That one is at 8:30 Eastern, 8 Eastern, 7 Central time. And then we got the hockey show afterwards at 8:30 Central, 9 Eastern. And then late night, me and my boy Benny D, we get together, do college football gambling, walk through the games of the week, over-unders, player props, kind of throw out what we like, talk through all the different games, kind of what we want to do maybe as the week goes on. So go ahead and check those out. And then Fantasy Frames Wednesdays, we got action all night long, everything from Redraft to Dynasty to IDP shows all on Wednesday night. So make sure you guys get on there and check those out.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We will see you later. Thanks for watching the Dynasty Evaluation Show. Thanks for all the questions, comments, concerns. Thanks for making this show great. Talk to you later.